for me, for example, every time before I got into the blocks, I was nervous. I was like, yo, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose in front of 15, 20,000 people, right? Because when you're doing well, everybody is with you. But when you lose, man, it's a long walk back to get your clothes and to put it on. When you were going into just competition, especially in that double back-to-back Olympic final, what was that day like for you, right?
I try to normalize it for athletes because we're all different. But I always had a level of, I don't want to be doing this. and when I say that, some people look at me and go, oh, thank goodness that's normal. And others look at me going, I don't even understand what you're saying. And again, we approach stresses differently. But there was a part of me that I never liked it. I wanted to be as good on a Saturday morning race as I did at the Olympic Games. But when I was talking to some of the athletes last year during the pandemic, they said, how do we compete without fans? And I was like, I'm so envious. What? And a few of them were like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I would have loved that. Hello.
Catriona, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well. I can't complain. There's no snow in the city right now, so that's a blessing.
No, see, I'm trying to make my outdoor rink, and so I'm so frustrated. So I'm the opposite.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I want to be respectful of it because I know you have a lot going on, a lot of things you're juggling right now. But I actually want to start here, Catriona, because we can't jump past what has been going on these past 2 years. These past recent years, we're still dealing with the pandemic. How did you navigate through those times physically, emotionally, spiritually, and as a parent?
Well, I want to say thank you. I'm honored to be doing this with you. You're just, you're a great role model for sport. And so thank you for that.
I appreciate saying that.
I love talking about the pandemic in the way that it actually allows sport to be front and center. I think too many times in our lives and in our community, and, I'm going to say federally, provincially, and within our communities, sport is sort of, it's considered an extra, right? And it's considered, it's almost the definition of it. People assume that we were talking registered sport, organized sport. But I think what the pandemic taught us is it's everything. It's being active, it's organized sport, it's sport at the most grassroots level. It's going out and playing, it's going for a bike ride, it's going for a walk. It's, it is organized sport. It's also sport at the highest level. Mm-hmm. And so the pandemic, it's been tough on everybody. It's been tough on sport because we realized that we missed the physical side, and we could, you can just Google it and you find 800 million studies on the physical benefits of sport. Yep. But the social side is what we really missed as well. And that mental health side, our communities are not in a good state. And I especially look at kids and youth. And that's, if we just talk about youth, I mean, we're ignoring adults who are completely stressed, and I can join, sort of that, like, just trying to juggle everything. But as somebody who's within the sport system, from my day-to-day work at Sport Calgary, from my role as chef for Beijing, as a mom of 2 teenage kids who are super active and were missing sport, as a participant, because I play old lady hockey and ringette. So juggling that was really tough, as everybody knows, and it was tough for everybody. But finally, as we begin to emerge from the pandemic, it's an opportunity to say, let's make sport a priority. Let's not just have it as an extra. Let's have it linked to health in every single way. Let's make it a priority in schools and communities and everywhere. So, it's been tough. I mean, I don't have to tell you that. I don't have to tell anybody that. But now is the time where we say, what are we going to do to be better coming out of the pandemic than we were going in.
What did it teach you personally as a person? You know, a lot of times, the grind of the everyday life and trying to get to a certain destination, we can often lose ourselves along the way and not get in tune with who we are and why we're doing something. But what did the pandemic teach you about yourself at this stage in your life?
Well, I think the last part of that sentence, at this stage of my life, because, during the pandemic, I turned 50 and I'm fine with that.
50? No way. No way.
I'm about to turn 51, and I had my first real injury a month before my 50th birthday. But, through all of that, I love people, but I'm actually a bit of an introvert. And so and I don't even like to say this that much, but there were certain parts of the pandemic that I was okay with because I did my own thing a lot of times. I was a sprinter. So for me to go hiking, I think you can probably relate.
Look, I went one time, Catriona. I didn't go back.
You know what, though? I have just started. So I keep thinking, I can't wait to go hiking. And I've gone hiking a lot. As soon as I start, my heart rate's at 180 and I'm the slowest hiker. And everybody just assumes, you must be great. Yeah. Why do you assume I'm going to be great?
Exactly.
But you know what? I actually got into quite a bit of winter hiking last year because there are no bears in the winter. So that was a bit of a great thing. I did some different things. And I think because I had to do a lot of it by myself, which I was okay with, I did a lot of sort of, I don't even want to say soul searching, but I was, I became a lot more comfortable with doing things on my own. Yeah. And that was really healthy for me because as much as athletes are very driven, we get, we're in that public eye where people are free to say whatever. Yes. And that sometimes is very, very difficult. And again, not just athletes, especially with social media now, especially for youth, that's a tough thing. I can't imagine as a teenager now in 2021 to be able to take, I think a lot of the almost criticism, what people say back and forth. But, even as adults, we get that. And so I learned to be a lot more comfortable. And in that way, it was really good for me in a sort of healthy, coming to understand myself way.
It's hard because I'm a contrary to what people may think, I'm a very introverted person. I love being on stage to speak. And when I was an athlete, being able to perform, right? But I'm also the person who likes to go into a room and just be in the back and just observe. And so I think a lot of times the pandemic kind of, if you took the time to use it wisely, then you kind of understood, okay, this is my foundation of where I've been the past couple of years. I haven't been able to figure it out, but now you get to sit with it. When it initially happened, who reached out to you? Right? Because everybody's trying to understand what is happening, what is going through, and especially holding a couple of titles that you have, people look to you for leadership, or even just advice, right? And that they're going to get an honest opinion, right? Because sometimes leadership, you have to be honest, even if they may not like the truth, right? What were some of those conversations that you were having where people were looking up to you to see, just to get your thoughts?
Yeah, I think initially, if I put my Sport Calgary hat on, it was the fact that we became a guiding light for sports and for members, which was great. And really, we've been doing that for the last, almost 2 years. As we start to look forward, it's okay, how can we get everybody going again? But it was really us trying to say, there's so much information out there, let us help guide you. And then we had the return to sport, and then it was cut back again and all of that. Sort of on that personal front, it was a lot of how do you stay active? Mm-hmm. Because, of course, I'm not in the same shape I was when I was competing, but I try to stay active. And I know the busier and more stressed I am, I have to do stuff. And, a lot of athletes, just as you mentioned, it's about finding the foundation for everybody. But a lot of athletes are, like you said, we have a bit of a mask. And so we externally love people, but people assume that's how we are, where we often like to blend in. And we like to do our own thing and sort of, I find energy by myself, reading a book, going for a walk with my dogs. But, it was a lot of advice on what are you doing to stay active? And so the reality was I was giving examples of what my kids and I were doing. And for them, I felt really bad because their seasons of almost finishing were cut short, as many kids were. Yeah. And then last year, their seasons started and then were cut short. But we tried to make, and this is where I feel like, we had a good learning lesson. We've not lived through this, and hopefully our kids don't live through another one. But because their hockey and ringette, which are their winter sports, were cut short last year, we ended up doing different things. And, if we went skiing when ski hills were open, we tried new things, and online school was different, but we just tried different things. And that's, we went disc golf and we went outside and we did different things. And that was sort of my advice, was just try something different. And again, I say, for myself and my kids, that's our family, but for some, being within family isn't always the best situation. And so, it was finding and trying to recommend situations where if that's not the safest or the most healthy situation, how can you, get outside and do your own thing? Living in Calgary, we were fortunate versus a lot of people out east, Montreal, Toronto, where they weren't allowed to even do that. So, I just count my blessings that we had a lot of freedoms, even though we were restricted.
Apart from all of your experience at the Olympic Games, which we're going to get into, this pandemic has actually kind of prepared you for your chef de mission entitlement at Beijing next year. But, I don't think a lot of people understand, while the title paper is glamorous, you're not getting paid more. You're actually enduring a lot of stresses from other people. You're taking a lot of things on. What does this title mean to you, again, at this stage in your life? Because you've had so many different stages, but a lot of things behind the scenes, people don't understand that every single part that a person plays is important. But what does this mean to you, right? It's a big honor, right? But it comes with a lot.
It does come with a lot. And again, a lot of people don't understand what it actually is. It's, it's the leader of the team. It's the spokesperson. It's the, if crap hits the fan, I'm front and center.
That's you.
My role leading up is to do all of that, to be the spokesperson, to be the cheerleader, to, be a part of all these different events. Again, different during pandemic, but, I am going out to the Ski World Cup. I'm going to head to the curling trials and do various things that I can. But as you said, it's a volunteer position. I have to take a month off of work. There's a lot of stress. My kids are very stressed that I'm gone for an entire month. I don't even know what to do with my dogs yet, things like that. But apart from all that, it's a choice. And these will be my 11th games, four as an athlete, 5 as media. And in 2018, I walked away from media and took on the role of mission team as lead athlete mentor, which, kind of took the role of assistant chef de mission. Mm-hmm. It's always been my dream to be chef. And I made myself a deal that I would not get, this is, I've started to tell people, I will not get the Olympic rings tattooed unless I'm chef de mission. So as soon as I got the call just over a year ago.
You got it done.
Well, no, I haven't got it done yet. I have about,
yes.
I'm down to days. I think know where I'm going to get it done. Super basic. But it sort of just is my meaning that, and again, it's just for me, that as an athlete, that didn't define my role at the Olympics, but to have these different roles and then to accept the role of chef, to me, it came full circle. And that just for me, then allows me to have the Olympic rings. And that will be sort of what it's my passion for the games. It's my passion for what I believe they represent. And I think especially what these games, the location, the controversy coming out of a pandemic, to me, these games truly signify what the games are about. It's about the world coming together. It's about building bridges. And to me, if the tattoo for me signifies everything that I believe in, then that's what I'm committed to.
It's interesting that you said with coming out of the pandemic, this kind of isn't the first time that you've actually had to come out and see something else, because the 9/11 event happened, right? And then the next year, but we got to go back to where that passion came from, right? From Scotland to the great old Saskatoon. Now from what I understand, your family moved over with the intentions of not staying there for long. You see, whenever I hear that, I'm like, oh yeah, they're gonna stay for long, because that's what happened to us, right?
Exactly.
That's what happened to us. And so what was that growing up like? Because from what I understand, you had two other siblings. What was that dynamics like, right? New country, right? Is Scotland, it snows there, correct?
It can.
Oh, but not really. So this was a whole different culture shock.
Well, and again, I'm first generation Canadian. My parents came in 1963, but you're right. With the intention, they're going to stay for a year. My dad was a professor of engineering at U of S, and they had us three girls, give us all Scottish names because they're still going to go back.
Yes.
Yeah. Sound familiar?
Yes. Oh man, I know that story too well. I'm still here.
Exactly. And my mom and dad and my sisters were the only ones still in Canada, and all of our cousins and aunts and uncles are still in Scotland, and they don't have Scottish names. They have what I would consider normal names, but that's okay.
Well, like Bob, Steve,
Diane, Gordon, Stuart, Graham, Susan, and David. And we are Fiona, Ilza, and Catriona. So that's okay. I love different names, but
during that time, sometimes our parents, our grandparents, the community may say something that we may not understand at that time, and it may stick with us. Sometimes they say, hard work pays off and this and that. And you're like, what are you talking about? Was there something that your parents said to you, maybe directly, or maybe something that you saw indirectly that stuck with you during that time?
Yeah, I mean, my parents never pushed me. They don't come from sport. We were all three very active and are still active in sport, but it wasn't something that, I mean, my parents are Scottish. They don't skate. They haven't skated. And we just sort of fell into different sports and fell into speed skating. My middle sister and I skated together for a number of years, went to Canada Games together. But I think it's the fact that my parents didn't push me. I am very driven. I'm super competitive. But mainly with myself, I expect perfection all the time, which, a lot of athletes are. Very hard way to be. It's probably been my biggest struggle, because when you realize that what you do is not perfect, no performance is perfect, you're not perfect, nobody else is perfect, it's tough. And it's easy to say, but you don't always really realize it.
Yeah.
But, it's the fact that my mom always said, you never judge anybody. And as much as, we always judge, we judge a little bit. Everybody judges a bit. I mean, we can say we don't judge, but we do a little bit. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that my mom she always made the point that it doesn't matter what you've received, what you've earned, what you have in your bank account, what your house looks like, what would stat at anything, it doesn't make you any better or any less than anybody else. So I remember after right before my first Olympics, remember she'd phoned me. So this is 1992, and we were heading to France. We'd already been in Europe, and she phoned me and she said, you don't have to go if you don't want to. Oh. And I said, but I want to go. And she goes, okay, then I will see you there. But it was her way of saying, only do this if it's what you want.
Oh, yeah.
And then after 98, it bothered me that I had to pull out of university because I was half done my degree. And I'm the only one in my family who doesn't have double degrees. And she said, well, you're the only one in the family who has 2 Olympic medals. It's just something that's different. Hey. Yeah. And it is, it's, it's what you do. And so again, I admire people and what they accomplish. It's just different than what I've accomplished. And that's the biggest thing, is that I don't care what people earn at Olympics or in business or whatever. To me, it's hard work, it's the ethics, and it's the values that impress me.
Now, you dropped out of school to pursue this dream, right? But before you made that move to Calgary, I understand you did a little track and field, Catriona. Yeah. What? I know you did everything, but what was the feeling when you were doing track and field? Because I heard that this was kind of like a dream for you that you wanted to do, right? What events was your specialty?
Well, and even after I moved to Calgary, so you know what? I would almost say that track's my first love. I, loved doing it, loved watching it. I always loved hurdles and sprints. And so I had done that throughout high school.
That's what I'm talking
exactly. Yeah. And then Canada Games in 89 were in Saskatchewan. Because track has an older age group, I thought, I want to try to make those Canada Games. And it was just, I'd moved in the fall of 88. It was too rushed. But I looked forward and said, 93, I'm still within the age category. So I started training with Les Germantic, and that was a time of Michael Smith. And so I was doing multi-events, and I ended up qualifying for Team Sask for the 93 Canada Games. And I did heptathlon, hurdles, and then the 4x1 and 4x4. And I knew that, I'd made the final in hurdles. I believe I was 8th in the hep. And, it was sort of, I was proud of that. And I knew that was the pinnacle. That was the best that I could get to. I continued for one more year and did nationals, but I could check the box and put it to rest. So for me, that was fine. And I understand, I'm super passionate about Canada Games and vice chair of the Canada Games Council. And I understand that for many, it's a stepping stone, and for many, it's the pinnacle. So I've lived both. And I love that I've been able to see that. But yeah, track for sure. My only huge stress was when there was a huge headwind and we had hurdles, because I'm especially being a speed skater, I was super lower body heavy.
Yes.
But jumping, high jump, oh goodness, I was the worst.
When you because there's always a time when we realize, this could be an avenue for something greater. When you actually got into speed skating, and then you made that move to Calgary, now the dynamics are different, because you usually don't make a move if you don't think it can be something, right? During that time, during that move, what were those times like? Because when you make that sacrifice, you're not really sure what the heck is going to happen. You're just hoping for the best. Yes, you can control all that you can control, but life is still going to come and do what it's going to do. But when you made the move, did you have the mindset to say, I'm going to make this Olympic team and I'm going to do this and I'm going to go that? Or was it just taking it year by year with the intention of, I'm going to do both this and school? What was the mindset going into those times?
A little bit of both. The 88 games, I had just turned 17. I was in grade 12. Nationals were Olympic trials. And I was 7/100s off the Olympic standard. And so the spot was left open. And so all the provinces fought and said, let her go and get the experience. At the time, I didn't even think I was there. And so I was in mixed mindset coming and watching the games, thinking, should I be there? Hindsight, looking at it, I'm glad I wasn't a part of the team. I needed to I was too young. So then, 6 months later, when I moved to Calgary, I was the first to move out of the house, and being the youngest, it was weird. I was 17. I was nervous, but my family is very academic. So of course I'm going to go into school. I lived in res, and, the focus then was the quadrennial, looking ahead to 92. So that was my focus. But I won't lie that my first year living in res at 17, turning 18, coming to a province where you could actually go to a bar with friends, coming from a province that was 19, it wasn't the most successful year, school or skating. And I was super scared to talk to my parents about it, because I didn't really succeed in any of it. But it was one of those things. My mom said, well, you learn lessons the hard way. And it's so true.
Yes.
Because I kind of had to go through that. But I also, look at athletes and I look at students and I say, I moved to Calgary not knowing anybody. Within 2 days, I knew 60 people because we all lived together. Yeah. So especially for somebody who, when I look at my daughter who's 17, similar, quite shy, not super confident. And that situation was what I needed. So, I had the mindset of I want to succeed, but I took a little bit of a side route for 6-8 months, and that's okay.
I think it's very important, right? Because I think we always tell people who are on the verge of either beginning high school or when they're going through school and they go to college, where it's like, you're going to have to find balance, right? You have to be able to, if you say you want to get to somewhere, there's a certain level of sacrifice that it takes to get there. But you also want to make sure that, you're still living a life, like you're still able to do those things. Sacrifices, Catriona, they never feel good at the beginning. But a lot of people don't understand, without sacrifices, you won't really get what you say that you want. When you were handling the day-to-days, I'm talking about the days when it was tough, when the days when you were missing home, the days when everybody's just like, man, Catriona done changed up on us. She doesn't want to come out and hang us without anymore. What's going on with that? How did you navigate those mental battles? Because again, you want to go out and have fun. You want to do these things, but you necessarily can't do it. How did you handle those inner thoughts and those moments to help push you forward, just from a practical standpoint, right? Because people always say, oh, just push through, but sometimes it's like, how?
Yeah. I've never used the word sacrifice. And I don't think I will use the word sacrifice, because when I look at situations, let's take that first year of university away, the people around me who truly knew me and knew where I wanted to go,
yes,
they supported me in general. And people who are those who sort of say, oh, can't you do this, and try to pressure, that's not really your team. And it's not easy to walk away from that. Oh my goodness, because we feel peer pressure. We want to be accepted, and we don't want to be shunned in any single way.
Yes.
Unfortunately, a lot of times your skin, you just get thicker skin because you just have to. But I also look at the things that I got to see. I got to go to these crazy little towns that have 3 guest houses, 4 cafes, and an oval outdoor that on a sunny day, you're standing on the starting line looking at the Dolomite Mountains. And I just think I'll never come to this town again. Most of the world will never see this town, but I got to see something really unique. So it's a different life. As athletes, we choose it. It's not an easy life, but we choose it. And so I guess I sort of look at the situations and don't consider it a sacrifice. It's a different path. I don't think I would choose this path for my children, because I think as a parent, it's hard to watch your child be on this stage and want to compete and want to succeed and, go through the ups and go through the downs. And, I don't have to tell you about that. You understand that. And then having kids now, I mean, there's nothing that I want more than to protect my children and to not have them, encounter hardship and sadness. And yet that's life. So, I don't know. It's not that I'm going against it, but I'll never agree that something's a sacrifice, because it's just different.
It's tough. I look at my little brother, and he's very, physically inclined with a whole bunch of things. Everything kind of comes easier for him, but he doesn't have the same work ethic that I have. But when he talks about, he'll end up running track and field catcher. I don't really want him to, but he'll end up doing it. But because you're in it, you can kind of see man, it takes a certain level of ingredients, right? Which goes to my next question. I want to actually combine these two, because I think they go hand in hand. 1998 and 2002, those Olympic Games for you. Now, pressure, yes, pressure is there. But I don't think people understand how hard it is to replicate going on the podium, but let alone winning again. A lot of people tell you about the pressure of what it can be, but they also don't tell you about the success part of it. Staying atop of the mountain is a lot harder than going to the mountain. What was the correlation between those two games for you, especially the year before? because, you know, people see on TV, they see the Olympic Games right then and there. But it's a quadrant cycle. Did you feel a little heaviness during that time? Did you question yourself during that time? Like, I wonder if I could do this, because you were the third person to be able to ever do that at that time, right? And probably to this day, if I remember correctly, the first. There
are now 3.
See, You see what you did? You see what you did? You done paved the way. You done paved the way. But did you think about it at that time, or was it just another race for you?
Oh, goodness. I mean, can you see me starting to sweat and feel like I have to phone a therapist? Because, at 98, it was hard for me not to think back to 94. So 92, 94, yes, 94, yes. I was 5th and I fell. So 98 going in expected to win, but I also knew what can happen at a game. So, great games and our whole team was successful. But going into 02, I'll never, ever, and I know this, I can say it 100%. I will never feel pressure like that again in my life. I'll feel more stress. I'll never feel more pressure. Going in, we'd had an up and down year or two before as we changed our training and, just tried different things and figured it out going into Olympic year. But heading to the Olympics, all I could hear was the stat that no Canadian individual, so summer, winter, male, female, so in 100 years had defended a gold for Canada. So when you hear that a statistic has been there for 100 years, you kind of have a hard time fighting that, because statistics, okay, but there's a certain truth to them. So you hear that and then you think, well, maybe I could do it. But then everything was going wrong for our team. Jeremy Weatherspoon, my teammate, who was still the winningest man in World Cup history, 2 days before my race, the toe of his skate dug in, he fell. He was expected to win. He was winning every race by half a second. And then there was the figure skating scandal with Jamie and David. And it was just like everything was going wrong for our team. And that pressure, it was so much that it for sure, I didn't even understand it. And I've only probably come to understand it in the last 10 years. And the reason I say that is you try to normalize it, because it is the same 500-meter race. But as you know, the Olympics are different. It's different. It's things are different. And that's where you want to compete. And it's where you want to perform. So then the race happens, and all I remember about the race is crossing the finish line and feeling relief. And then the next week was, fun and a whirlwind, and I still had the 1,000-meter, but we got to go to the hockey finals and all of that, and come back, do a quick celebration, then finish our season, because our season is not done at the Olympics. And I knew I would skate one more year. When I was done, that just started in media and had my daughter right away, and it just go, go, go. But the first time that it hit me was in 2008. It was at the Beijing Games. And it's still, so 6.5 years, and I still hadn't really figured it out. But I was in Beijing interviewing Adam Van Couverden, who was going to carry the flag. And he said, Catriona, I'm going to win. I'm carrying the flag. I won the gold in the 500, the bronze in the 1,000. It's exactly what you did. And now I'm going in, and I'm like, yeah, you're going to win. So then interviewed him. And then during his competition, went back to his hometown and was doing a feature there for CBC. But I'll never forget watching the race, because he was leading and then he just started falling behind. And when he won silver, I remember watching his reaction and thinking, defending is harder than I realize. Because at that point, he was going to be the second person. Yeah. And it took until Alex Bilodeau in 2010 to become the second person to defend. And then Rosie McLennan has defended. So it sort of made an impact on me, how difficult that is. But at the time, I mean, you can't comprehend it. And I don't even know if I can comprehend it right now. Looking at all the numbers of athletes in Canada that have won gold medals and have not defended it, again, in an individual sport. So it's probably a little bit of still dealing with it. And, you talk about dealing with success. We talk all the time to people, how do we deal with overcoming obstacles? But we don't talk about how to deal with success. And that is a very difficult thing. And right or wrong, I often say for Olympians and Paralympians, but especially Olympians, because we're still not at the point, unfortunately, where Paralympics get as much coverage. And, we need to get to that point. But for Olympians, people expect them to be perfect. And especially when you see somebody on a podium, you expect everything in their life to be perfect. People do. And it's just the nature of the beast. And fair or unfair, you look at professional sport, and when those athletes screw up, everybody just kind of goes, oh, they screwed up. But when somebody from the Olympics screws up, when they have struggles, whether it's alcohol, marital problems, financial, whatever it might be, people kind of go, oh, the nerve. And so you're put on this pedestal, which we accept the role, and I love it, but it's tough. It's very tough when you are expected to be perfect and you all of a sudden realize that you're not, and others realize that you're not.
Yeah. And I don't think many people understand. Well, first and foremost, a lot of look, Olympians and NBA players are not getting the same salary. That's one. The other thing is, when you are stepping into that moment, I know for me, until I realized that kind of everybody was like this, they see the external shell, but there's so many mental things happening. Like for me, for example, every time before I got into the blocks, I was nervous. I was like, yo, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose in front of 15, 20,000 people. Right. Because when you're doing well, everybody is with you. But when you lose, man, it's a long walk back to get your clothes and to put it on. When you were going into just competition, especially in that double back-to-back Olympic final, what was that day like for you? Right. Because I know for me, that day kind of started out just like, man, I'm really tired today. Mm-hmm. What was that day like for you?
I try to normalize it for athletes because we're all different, but I always had a level of, I don't want to be doing this. and when I say that, some people look at me and go, oh, thank goodness that's normal. And others look at me going, I don't even understand what you're saying. And again, we approach stresses differently, but there was a part of me that I never liked it. I wanted to be as good on a Saturday morning race as I did at the Olympic Games. But when I was talking to some of the athletes last year during the pandemic, they said, how do we compete without fans? And I was like, I'm so envious. What? And a few of them were like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I would have loved that. Pretend nobody's there. I would have loved to have raced by myself. I don't have to think about anybody else. Mm. I don't thrive under the pressure. And my Olympic races were never my best races. They were good enough, but they were never my best races. And to me, that was just it's just my personality. Yeah. I expect to be here all the time. You can't be, but you can be close to. But eventually in those pressure situations, it's tough. But I literally battled every minute. I would wake up, you obviously think about it, but then you try to refocus. And I would try to have my things that would distract me, my crap movies, my crap books, whatever it might be. We didn't have the social media side back then, which is good and bad. So it would be this battle of, thinking about the race. Okay, go back. Yeah, that's in a few hours. And then just taking things literally moment by moment. And I think regardless if it's sport and sport at any level or business, we get thinking about the end result. This is what I want to do. I don't want to lose. I want to win. Where if you don't have a great first step out of the blocks, that's irrelevant. So we need to break everything down into steps. And, I try to do that with my kids, especially my daughter, who's a mini me, because she gets thinking about, she's in grade 12. What if I don't get into university? What if everybody else is doing? It's like, slow down. Let's just think about this week. What do we need to do? Easier said than done. Yes. It's a minute by minute battle. And I think that's why we can drain ourselves when we don't become aware of those stresses. And that's where I've been good at, trying to navigate that and trying to say, you know what, I'm checking out for a few hours, and right or wrong, that's what I do now. And I take off. I literally take off with my dogs or something. it's been that way, and it's been a battle for years. But especially at Olympic time. And that's what I mean by I don't think I'll ever feel that pressure again, because nothing will be as intense for one single event and for a few seconds.
You said something right there, Catriona, that always resonates with me, is trying. I think so many times, we're told, we have to be one way, this way to accomplish everything. You got to grind, no sleep, no food, just work. But work-life balance is tough and it's hard. And sometimes I don't think it exists, but I think trying to seek to find it is very important. How do you find balance now? I know for me, I'm not a patient person by no means.
You and I both.
And that was one of my things when I was training, right? My coach would be like, "Akeem, man, you got to be a lot more patient to 40 meters and then build up." I'm like, "Yo, coach, for what?" Like you're going from 0 to here. Like we have to, but it wasn't until I understood that how you weight is just as important as the weight. You're about to turn 51, you said, right? I read somewhere, and this goes on with the same question, where I think when your kids were younger and it was late at night, you would go and you would freeze the ice rink, and that would be your kind of time to wait. And that was where your faith kicked in and the patience side of it. So how do you find patience and juggle work-life balance at this stage in your life?
It's funny. As soon as you said, what do you do? My instant thought was, it's so warm in Calgary right now. I can't even get out and make ice, because I love that when it's crisp and the sky is clear and I just have a hose running and it's just me out on this outdoor rink. It might be one of my last years making an outdoor rink with the age of kids, but little things like that. And I think that's where we have to figure out what gives us energy, and what gives me energy is different than what gives you energy and this person. For me, sometimes it's getting together with friends, but a lot of times it's literally reading a book or going for a walk, or whether it's going for a hike. It depends. I try to put some little time aside, for workout, for whatever. But again, sometimes I need the me time, that it's just me. I love being outside, especially if the mountains are clear or the sun. I struggle when the sun is not shining. Thank goodness I live in a place where the sun shines a lot. Yeah. I need the sun, whether it's warm out or cold out. I know that is my energy source. But I also love just sitting with my glass of wine and either reading or watching a show, and not answering my phone. So again, it's figuring out those moments and taking those moments, which I will admit right now, I probably am not taking enough. Between kids being busy, me trying to not miss anything because I'm going to be gone for a month. My mom is not well. She's, near end of life. And, you just kind of go, everything, work. Oh yeah, I have to actually work. Yeah. Oh, and then I want to make sure I'm doing what I can as chef. So, you take on a lot of things, but also I always say, if tomorrow's my last day, and we never know, have I made an impact? And so that's what I try to do is, there'll be a lot of people who will think, oh yeah, she's done too much, as in too busy, which is actually one of my pet peeves when people say you're too busy, because we choose, and people don't know what gives you energy and what doesn't.
Exactly.
But it's taking those moments. But I think more than that, it's figuring out what those moments are that you need.
Catriona, last question before the last fun 5 questions, which shouldn't be too taxing, if there was someone listening to this, right, and they're going through a tough time right now. You just mentioned that your mom wasn't feeling so well and doing so well. I'm really sorry to hear that. But life happens to you, and it can be heavy. And when life is happening to you, you can feel alone. And when you feel alone, you can get in a state of depression, and then you can start to spiral and think about all of these different things and sit in that emotion and not knowing how to dig yourself up or what that even looks like. If there's someone maybe in that stage, kind of losing hope, what is something that you would say to them as a word of encouragement?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are people in that state. And I think sometimes people feel like there's nobody who cares. And there always is. So, I mean, sometimes I've relied on faith. Sometimes I get frustrated on the faith side and question it.
Come on now. Hey, come on now.
Fair enough, right? And it's okay to question everything. But I think always trying to find someone to reach out to. And I think for me, it's even having reached out and done, I think therapy is a great situation. Tough during COVID because some people don't do as well on the Zoom situation.
Yes.
But I like often when it's someone I don't know. And so, I think one of the big things is when we get into those spirals, it's about trying to get outside and be active. Again, I'm talking a walk around the block.
Yeah.
Because what we do, and I get it, is we then, sit because we don't want to get moving. We don't want to be outside. In a way, it's what we know. So as soon as we start getting into the spiral, what if I start feeling better? And honestly, I've kind of been there where, what if I start feeling better? But then I realize that some parts are good and some parts are bad. Like I won't know how to deal. So I think just understanding that there's always somebody, you're never alone. We're all in that situation. Whether you've gone to the highest level of sport, whether you've done absolutely nothing in sport wise, highest business person, lowest, sort of whatever your role is, we're all the same. And I think that's where we need to stop. That's where I think the judgment has to stop. We don't know everybody's battle. Yeah, and exactly. That's, the most successful person who we kind of look at and say, oh, I envy because it looks like they have nothing wrong in their life. No way. There is no way. So
yes,
we're all equal. We are all equal.
A lot of people can only see the picture, but they can't really see the full frame. And, there's always more behind it. But I really like what you said, where go for a walk or something physical, because a lot of times too, if you change your environment a little bit, change the scenery, you'll start to see things a little bit differently. And I think there are moments, I know for me, where I'll be doing the same thing, but I'll do the same thing in a different environment. And I'll say, you know what? Life isn't too bad right now.
That's so true. That's a great perspective.
Catriona, last 5 questions. Rapid fire questions, shouldn't be too taxing, shouldn't be too hard. Question number 1, if you were trapped on a deserted island for a week, what are 3 things you would bring? I know, shouldn't be too hard, but sometimes it's a trick question.
Wine. I'm prioritizing these. Then my children, and a book.
2, what is one thing that you have to do for yourself every single day?
Sit with my coffee for at least 2 minutes by myself.
Oh, that's nice. That's a great time. That's a great time. 3, people see you a lot in different roles, different situations, and they only can see what they perceive, but they may not know if that's the truth. What is one of the biggest misconceptions about you?
I'm not that tough. I am super emotional. I probably cry over things at least a few times a day.
Hey. If we can be honest with ourselves, nobody can hold it against us, right? Question 4, you have 2 kids. You have to teach them a lot. You have to show them a lot. But oftentimes, the people we come in contact with can be reflections of us. What have they taught you over the years?
They've taught me that it's okay to be me. I've always tried to teach them. The biggest thing I've tried to teach them is respect for other people, respect for themselves. And then I think probably in the last 4.5 years, being a single mom for that amount of time, they've taught me that, you know what, it's okay when you don't know everything.
Wow. That's powerful right there. 5, everything that you've been through, everything that you're trying to figure out, everything that, is to come, everything that you had to endure, create, start over again, build from the ground up. but the person you are transforming into, and so forth. If there was one word to describe you, Catriona, what would that one word be? And give me a little sentence behind why that one word.
Oh man, that's a tough one. It's rapid fire.
With a twist.
Yeah, exactly. I would, we use the word so much right now, resilience, but I think I'm pretty resilient. You sometimes feel like things are going to break you, but, then all of a sudden you go, man, I've done okay. Like, I've done this and my kids are super grounded and, I've figured out how to put a blade on a quad and stuff like that. So maybe I would say resilient. And, but if I look at everything I want to accomplish, I still don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up. I better live to 100 and not just, I'm only halfway then.
At least the seeking and the journey has brought you to this point, and I know you said your birthday is what, next month, remember correctly?
I'm almost Christmas, December 23rd.
Well, this will come out before then. So happy birthday when this comes out. Thank because you. The fact that you're saying 51 does not resonate with me, because you could pass for 25. What I'm saying? You could go back right into the Olympics if you really want. But I know you're about to head over to Beijing in a couple months before. But what's the best way for people to keep in contact with you? Because I will share this. There have been like 10 different people in my email saying, Akeem, you got to get her on, man. You got to get her on. Right. So I think that's a testament of you and what you've been able to do. But not only that, but represent the person. I will always take the person over the athlete any given day, because there are a lot of Olympic gold medalists who you probably wouldn't want to hang out with if you know who they were. But what's the best way for people to maybe reach out to you or keep in contact with what you got going on?
Social media. I mean, sometimes if people direct message me, it takes me a few days to get to it, and then I will gladly share email that way. My whole thing is, how can we make each other better? So it doesn't matter to me where you're at, what you're doing, what you've accomplished, what you want to accomplish. We can all make each other better. And I want to be part of that. So social media, Catriona LD. And I always, and I'm never shy on posting stuff, whether it's me, my kids, I don't care. It's real life, and I live in the real world, and I don't pretend to be anything but real.
Catriona, thank you so much. But something just came to mind. I realized that you just said your name, Catriona. So I've been saying it right this time, because I know a lot of people call you Katrina. And I was like, man, if she's from Scotland, there's probably a twist to it. So
it's all wrong, but I say Catriona in French. I say Catriona, and I say Catriona because that's how it's spelled with a C. And I like it more than Katrina. How we actually say it, only 5 people in the world say it properly. My mom and dad, my sisters, and my son. So, and 6, and Scott Russell. So we'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. Well, thank you again so much. I really appreciate your time, and we'll be in touch soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.